They would have let them do, and then they would have went through, but then they would have found all their terrorist implements. So that they weren't going to let that happen if they could avoid it. I hate injustice. I absolutely abhor it. And this is just one of the most unjust things I've seen in a long time. Needless to say, the fact that the deaths could have been avoided if the activists had kept their noses out of Israel's affairs never entered the man's head. Again, true. What really happened? Israel has plenty of footage revealing the truth. You can view the sickening scenes here, here, and here. It gives you 3 links. They're probably the same 3 links I've got up there. The peace-loving protesters tried to lynch the Israeli soldiers. As each paintball-armed soldier reached the deck, he was leaped upon by an iron bar-wielding, chair-smashing, knife-stabbing, and even gun-firing peace activists. Some soldiers were beaten senseless. I mean, if you see these guys swinging these clubs on this deck, I showed Nonette and Taylor, they are giving it all they got. They were trying to kill them. I'm talking as hard as they could over the head. One was dropped headfirst onto the lower deck. You can watch that right on the film. You'll watch him drop headfirst onto the lower deck, sustaining serious injuries. Another was stabbed. His pistol was grabbed from him and used to fire at the Israelis. Stun grenades and firebombs were thrown at the soldiers. Why? When they eventually opened fire, it was only to defend themselves. And we still do not know how many of those killed were killed by the soldiers or by the terrorists. So see, there's a lot of people that died. Who knows, with the bullets that were flying, because they had some guns at that point, who they might have killed as far as they might have killed a Muslim in regard to them, and that would be referred to as like friendly fire. The Muslims are over there firing. It's in the middle of the night. Who knows who was responsible for the deaths of who? We're blaming it all on Israel. We don't even know that. I wouldn't, if they could blow themselves all up, and they did it themselves and make it look like the Israel, they'd do that most likely in a heartbeat to advance Allah's agenda. This is the real story, but don't hold your breath waiting for the currently convening emergency session of the United Nations Security Council to find in Israel's favor. Yeah, it's such a big deal that the United Nations actually held an emergency session, Security Council. So they're going to try to pressure Israel. When it comes to the state of the hatred of Jews, the truth rarely finds traction in the court of international opinion. Thanks largely to the media, many millions of people are primed and ready to believe the worst about the actions of Israel's Jews. For them, it's a case of why let the facts get in the way of a convenient and expedient story that further feeds their prejudices and satisfies their twisted desires. I don't understand why there is this desire within a lot of professing Christians to just so demonize the Jews. I really see it coming more and more and more in the last 2 to 3 years. Whole Christian organizations that are literally, some of their mission statements almost devoted to just demonizing the whole Jewish race. Not just the people, the wicked Zionist Illuminati ones at the top. Not everybody. Israel's cause in general. Their right to exist. I've never seen such a thing. I never thought I would. Christians doing this. But it's becoming... And you know what? The more I see it, the more I just want to fight harder to defend righteousness and a righteous cause, because they have a right to protect themselves, and this is a righteous cause. All it does is fire me up more. And these people that want to argue with me and do this or do that, the overwhelming evidence is 100% against you, and I've just proven this, and I've even got more to go over. It's so overwhelming. And I'm sorry if you're blinded to that fact, but that's not my problem. I'm here to present the facts, and these are the facts. And the thing is this is just one of many thousands of events just like this that continues to occur. The Muslims and the Islamic people are so predictable in their actions. They're so predictable, and they're really not very smart in the way they carry out things. If the media wasn't helping them along, they would have been exposed so long ago, and they have been exposed. And I'm not talking about my listeners. I don't think I'm coming down on my listeners. I'm talking about the people that are just have this, it's like this hatred of Israel. And I just don't understand it. I really don't, but I'm seeing it grow more and more and more and more among professing Christians. And that's why I think I'm getting madder and madder and madder about it. Because I see it growing more and more and more. And as things get more skewed and more outrageous and more insane, like this story I'm talking about, Christians, professing Christians, are going more and more and more over to the Muslims in the Islamic side. And aligning themselves with them and the United Nations and Maitreya and Krem and all the New Agers and all the terrorists. Look at what side you're putting yourself on. That alone would make me think I might want to look at both sides of the story. Let's go further. This is another, just a brief excerpt from his next article called Where the Spider's Web. Like beware of the spider's web. Not wear it like a coat or anything. Sorry. He said the eruption of violence that occurred on the high seas in the early hours of May 31st, when criminals and terrorists masquerading as peace activists attacked and tried to kill Israeli soldiers, had at least one positive outcome. It caused Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to cancel his visit to the White House, which had been set for Tuesday after President Obama extended an invitation to the Israeli leader last week. Few observers were fooled by this friendly request. Obama, who has unabashedly realigned his country away from its traditional pro-Israel stance, had come under the withering fire from many quarters, including some from its own corner, like treating Netanyahu like dirt during his last visit to the Washington White House. I documented all this, okay? I documented all of this in that teaching that I did. Treated him like dirt. With a virtual 0% approving rating among Israelis, the American leader Obama has clearly been forced to accept the fact that he would not be able to cajole the people of the world's only Jewish state into embracing his vision for a new Middle East. Good for them. Have that devil over there, or have him invite. I don't think, Now, many of you also know there's a new aid ship going to Gaza. Now, this is going down as we write this. This has already been intercepted, this new age ship. But let me just read you a little bit about this one. Because, again, remember what they said? We're just going to keep sending ships in. We're just going to keep creating international incident after international incident, even though we're totally in the wrong. But we have the press on our side, so that's all that matters. An aid ship trying to break the blockade of Gaza could reach the Israeli 20-mile coast late Friday. They've already done that. Okay? An activist said, but Israel's prime minister has vowed the ship will not reach land. Greta Berlin, a spokesman for the Free Gaza group, which is the same one that just pulled all this garbage that we just talked about, said the Nicosia, which is a 1,200-ton Rachel Corrie, is heading directly to Gaza and will not stop in any port on the way. It is trying to deliver hundreds of tons of aids, including wheelchairs. Oh, they got to have the wheelchairs on there, because then everybody really feels sorry for them. Medical supplies and concrete. By Friday afternoon, the ship was 150 miles from the coast of Gaza in international waters. The group said on its website, Irish Nobel Peace Prize laureate Mayrid Maguire and former head of the UN Oil for Food program in Iraq, Dennis Halliday, were among the 11 passengers on board. So they made sure they had some really high-profile people on this, so that if there was any killing or whatever, oh boy, then there was really going to be an ultimate outcry. The Irish vessel is named after an American college student crushed to death by an Israeli army bulldozer while protesting house demolitions in Gaza. Any little thing they can use to demonize Israel, they're going to do. They're going to name a boat after this. They're going to name a boat after this Israeli or this American college student. It was an American college student crushed to death in Israel by an army bulldozer protesting house demolitions in Gaza. Israel will not allow the aid ship to reach Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told senior cabinet members late Thursday the truth. You can view the sickening scenes here, here, and here. He gives you 3 links. They're probably the same 3 links I've got up there. The peace-loving protesters tried to lynch the Israeli soldiers. As each paintball-armed soldier reached the deck, I hate injustice. I absolutely abhor it. And this is just one of the most unjust things I've seen in a long time. Needless to say, they would have let him do, and then they would have went through, but then they would have found all their terrorist implements. So that they weren't going to let that happen if they could avoid it. Was leaped upon by an iron bar wielding, chair smashing, knife stabbing, and even gun firing peace activists. Some soldiers were beaten senseless. I mean, if you see these guys swinging these clubs on this, the fact that the deaths could have been avoided if the activists had kept their noses out of Israel's affairs never entered the man's head. Again, true. What really happened? Israel has plenty of footage revealing